I was hated by my family for wearing earrings. The sun shone brightly on the small suburban street as I stepped out of my car. I had finally made it to my parents' house after a long drive from college. My parents were always strict, religious people, and expected their children to abide by their rules. Growing up, I had followed all their rules and done my best to be the perfect child. I was always careful to dress modestly and not draw attention to myself in any way. But today was different. Today, I had decided to wear a pair of earrings. It was a small gesture, but I knew it would have a big impact on my parents. I had been wanting to express my individuality, and I figured this was a good way to do it. As I stepped out of the car, I could feel my heart racing. I had no idea how my parents would react. Would they be angry? Would they be disappointed? I had no way of knowing until I stepped inside. I slowly walked up the driveway and knocked on the door. A few moments later, my mom opened the door. She looked me up and down, and then her face darkened. "What are those?" she asked, pointing at my earrings. "They're earrings," I said nervously. I thought it would be nice to express my individuality a bit. My mom shook her head in disapproval. "Your father won't be happy," she said. "You know how he feels about things like this." I sighed, knowing she was right. My father was a very conservative man, and he didn't approve of any sort of self-expression. My mom stepped aside and let me in. I followed her into the living room, where my dad was sitting in his recliner. He looked up as I entered, and his face fell when he saw my earrings. "What is this?" he said, pointing at my ears. I nervously explained that I wanted to express myself and that I thought earrings would do the trick. He didn't say anything, but his face was red with anger. My mom stepped in and tried to explain that I was just trying to be independent and that it was a normal thing for young people to do, but my dad was having none of it. "This isn't normal," he said. "It's not acceptable in our house. You know our rules." I nodded, feeling my heart sink. I had known this wouldn't be easy, but I hadn't expected such a strong reaction. My dad went on to explain that I was setting a bad example for my younger siblings and that I was disrespecting our family's values. He said that if I wanted to express myself, I should do it in other ways. I apologized and said that I would take the earrings off, but my dad wasn't satisfied. He said that I was now grounded until further notice. I was devastated. I had wanted to make a small gesture of independence, but instead I had managed to make my family hate me. I wanted to cry, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. I took off the earrings and put them away, feeling more alone than ever. I had hoped to find acceptance and understanding, but instead I had found disapproval and hatred. I had failed to make a connection with my family, and I was now paying the price. I went to my room and stayed there for the rest of the day, trying to process what had happened. I felt so isolated and alone. I had gone from feeling like part of the family to feeling like an outcast, and I had no idea how to make things right again. As I lay in my bed that night, I realized that my family was never going to accept me for who I was. I had tried to express my individuality, but to them it was wrong and unacceptable. I had hoped to find acceptance, but instead I had found hatred. The following weeks were challenging. The atmosphere at home remained tense, and every interaction with my family felt strained. I attempted to keep a low profile, adhering to their rules and avoiding any further conflicts. However, the feeling of isolation and rejection persisted. One day, while browsing through local community events, I stumbled upon a gathering that focused on individuality and self-expression. Intrigued, I decided to attend, hoping to find a community that appreciated diversity without judgment. Walking into that room felt like a breath of fresh air. I met people who had faced challenges similar to mine, and they shared stories of self-discovery and the liberating feeling of being true to oneself. It was a stark contrast to the environment at home, and I realized I wasn't alone in my journey. As I became more involved in this newfound community, I gained confidence and a renewed sense of identity. I started rebuilding my life, forming friendships with those who accepted me without reservation. It was a stark contrast to the judgment and hostility I had experienced within my own family. Over time, I found myself emotionally distancing from my family. While I stayed in touch, our conversations became superficial, avoiding any mention of my personal choices. It became a coping mechanism, a way to shield myself from their disapproval. As the years passed, I pursued my passions and built a life that reflected my true self. I established a strong support system with friends who became my chosen family. Despite the ongoing challenges, I never regretted the decision to wear those earrings. They became a symbol of my journey towards self-discovery and acceptance. Occasionally, I would visit my parents, hoping that time had softened their stance. However, the disapproval persisted, and the gap between us widened. it became apparent that their definition of family values was incompatible with my desire for self-expression and authenticity. Despite the ongoing challenges, I focused on building a future that aligned with my values and aspirations. The scars of family rejection served as a reminder of the importance of finding acceptance within oneself and from those who genuinely valued the essence of an individual. I just wanted to share my story with you guys, and to anyone facing similar struggles, remember that your journey is valid and there is a community out there ready to embrace you for who you are. You are not defined by the limitations others place on you, but by the strength you find within to be true to yourself. TLDR. After deciding to wear earrings, a symbol of self-expression, my strict and traditional family strongly disapproved. Despite attempts to explain and reconcile, the family's disapproval remained, leading to strained relationships. Seeking acceptance, I found a supportive community outside my family and focused on building a life true to my values and identity. The scars of family rejection became a reminder of the importance of self-discovery and finding acceptance within oneself and from those who genuinely value individuality.